Welcome to StampWithLorraine.com. I'm Lorraine Sish, Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I'd like to share with you some ways to use those little strips of DSP that are left over from some of your bigger projects. Maybe you trim off a 1/2 inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch, and you still need to, you're going to save those strips, so you want to use them somehow. So here is a way to use those strips, making little herringbone patterns, or using a little bit wider strips and decorating them up a little bit. There we go, upside down, sorry about that. And here's one using some even wider strips, but sometimes you have just little pieces you don't know what to do with, so we're going to put them together in this little patchwork kind of pattern there. And here's another way to use them, lining them up in a little in a line and cutting them to fit into your main focal point of your card. So come on over and let's watch and see. If you like what you see, give me a thumbs up in the comments below, and don't forget to visit StampWithLorraine.com for more information. I'm going to show you another idea that you can use your scraps for, whether it be DSP. The DSP looks really good, but you can use it with regular cardstock too, or a mixture. So some of the other things we've done with scraps was the scrappy strips. You know, we did this random thing in the past, right? With DSP or regular cardstock. We did the sunburst the sunburst thing using the scraps as well, the strips. So I'm going to show you something else you can do with the strips. Well, obviously this is one thing you can do, just very simply taking your 1/2 inch strips, using it as a background, and just putting a little sentiment on, so real quick and easy. So just a mat of color on a white card, and quick way to use up your strips that way, the things that coordinate. But I'm going to show you a few different options that you can do, and one is a really kind of a cool technique. So this is obviously, I just made this card. This is not anything fancy or anything that you guys haven't done before, but just taking two different patterns of the DSP, alternating 1 inch strips, because sometimes you always have a little piece, and just spreading them out on the white background and do a little sentiment on there, quick and easy. This is one of my favorites, the mint macaron with these gilded autumn patterns there. So that's just a real simple way to use up some strips. All right, so I have several different things to show you here. The main thing I want to show you is I practiced with old DSP. This is the tropical chic coordinating things, and we're going to be making this little crisscrossy random quilted look. I don't know what you want to call it, but just using the strips. These have 1/2 inch strips, and you're always left with, you know, small pieces like that. Is that 1/2 inch or 3/4? Yeah, that one's 3/4. So I'm going to show you how to do this little herringbone type pattern here, or to fill up a whole card to do that. So it looks really, really pretty using the variety of the papers. So I'm going to, that was my practice with my retired DSP. So I'm going to do some up in fall colors today. So I'm going to use the plaid that's in the mini catalog. And I'm going to use the pretty peacock, bumblebee, and the sentiment with the stitched nesting dies there. And the So Sentimental is, no, wrong one. Which one is that? Oh, here we go. From the Peaceful Moments sentiments. Okay, so that's wishing you every happiness. So that's good. So here are my scraps, so to speak. You can use any width that you like. Obviously, the bigger the strip, then you don't have to fill as much. But we're going to have your card base, your regular card base, 5.5 by 8.5, scored in the middle. Your next layer is your 1/4 inch less than that, so it's 4 inches by 5 1/4. And then the white layer 1/4 inch less than that. So you are at 5 by 3 3/4. All right, so you're going to decide on which DSP you want. And I'm going with the palette with the peacock, the bumblebee, the oranges. And you can kind of, see, I don't want the blue on this one. So because there are flip sides, you can decide which sides you want. All right. So you can mix and match. So basically, you can do this with your tape runner or with your glue. You're going to start with a long one. These are all from 6 by 6 DSP. So the longest I have is 6 inches, but that works. So you're going to start with one on a diagonal. And you want to make sure that you don't leave a corner hanging off down here. You want to kind of either go this way so that your the edges of the card are covered. You don't want to leave this corner. We'll be filling in little triangles later on, but you want to kind of start like that. So you can either with your tape runner draw a line. I know some people have taken a ruler and just drawn a line to get them started, but I just kind of do it freehand. It's okay. As long as I've got this going here, that's good. I'm just going to lay that across. And it's okay to go over. You want to go over because later on we're going to just trim the edges from the back. All right, and you're just going to kind of play with it. I'm going to do 2 in the same direction. So again, I don't want to leave that up there. I'm just going to bring it up a little bit so that it's covered all the way. So again, I'll just do a little strip of glue and lay that down. All right, now I'm going to start going in different directions. So maybe I'll take red one, cover it up like that. And this is one of those things, you know, kind of like if you're doing just a random patchwork quilt, you want to put a little bit of thought into not putting the same things next to each other. But sometimes you don't have to think too hard, or sometimes with gardening, just kind of scatter it about and see what comes out of it. Like this one, I might put the yellow next to it to go the opposite way of this, just to mix things up a little bit. Let's go maybe with one down here. Okay, you can choose if you want them perfectly lined up or not, or if you want them just random. Doesn't matter to me. All right, and I'll put one of these over here. So I'm starting with 2, 4, 6, 8 strips. You can see how many you need eventually. I'm just going to turn this over and cut some of these off so that I can use those pieces as well. And when you're doing this, you can butt them right up against each other like I'm doing, or you can leave a little bit of space like we did with the scrappy strips. Sometimes we left a little bit of space. So I'll do one different ways and we can see what that all looks like. Okay, so I'm going to put maybe a brown one up there. And I'll bring one of these guys over here. So here's the card all done with all the plaid strips all laid out and my sentiment attached with the nesting dies. And I decided to add a couple little daisies on there just to make that pop a little bit. Of course, you can just do a sentiment if you want to keep it simple, or you can add something else, but really cute with the little daisies and one tucked in the back there. So of course this is raised up with dimensional dots, and so is this daisy. Give it a little bit more dimension, but aren't those colors sweet? That could be any time of the year, not just fall. So enjoy that. And here's another example of a similar layout design used with 1-inch strips. This one has 3/4 inch. This one has 1-inch strips. You could see how it's a little bit, you need fewer strips because the 1-inch takes up more space, of course. So remember I said before that sometimes you have little triangles that are left in the corner. You can take your little pieces that are left over and just fit them in. And I'm just looking now that I forgot a little piece here. So I'm going to show you how to do those little teeny strips. You would do the same thing if it weren't attached to the card base, of course. This is early espresso with a layer of white underneath. And just a note, this one I left some spaces, almost like when you would lay out tile and you have the grout in between. This one, I butt the pieces right up against each other with no spaces. So either look is fun, and you can try them both ways. So you want to take a piece of your designer cardstock that is still giving you a right angle here. Don't start with something like this, because it would be just, it's too hard. You're not going to get that same right angle. You need right angles here and here. So take a piece that has a square, and if it isn't, just cut it like I did on this one. And you'll just lay it up against there and see how much you need. Now it's real tiny, so what I normally do is use my fingernail again. I'm going to line this up here. I'm just going to run my fingernail along the edge of that white base. And now I have a little score line that I'm going to cut at. And difficult for you to see, but it's there. And then I can just put a little dot of glue on here and piece that little guy right on there. Okay. And I purposely chose a piece that has some color to it, because if it were just all white, it probably would look like there's nothing there at all. So there you go. You have those little pieces. Now I'm going to let you in on a little secret. When I was doing this one, I ended up with a teeny tiny piece right here that didn't have any DSP, and it was white because underneath was white. So guess what? Just take your marker, and this is Bumblebee, and I just colored that teeny weeny little piece in there, and nobody would ever know the difference. See, I bet you didn't notice it before either. So there you go. Those are some nice designs using the cardstock at right angles to each other, that way, mixing and matching. Okay, so it looks like tile or a little patchwork quilt. So here they are in a herringbone pattern. So just putting one side all parallel to each other, the other right side all parallel to each other, but you're going to alternate where they meet. So you would first put one piece this way, and you would start in the middle, and then you can work your way out so that you can fill in the little pieces. So you'd start in the middle, perhaps with this one. It doesn't really matter how far it goes, just find a starting point. And then just from there, you'll put this one at a right angle, matching up these sides here. And then the next one butts up to that. And then from there, it's just like filling in the pieces. And this one, I mixed some regular cardstock and some DSP. These are 1/2 inch, these are 3/4, and these are 1 inch. Okay, so you can see the difference. Okay, so now moving on to one more idea using your, these I guess would be 1/2 inch strips as well. So using 1/2 inch strips to make 3 different cards. I'll show you the process first. I took a piece of white, Whisper White cardstock, or if your pattern has vanilla, you can use vanilla, or you can just use computer paper if you want it a little thinner. You can start with 6 inches tall you can do 4.5 inches wide, because you have 1/2 inch strips here. So if you have 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 strips, that's going to give you 4.5 inches. So when you want to cut it down to 4 1/4 for some of your card layers, then you could just trim off 1/8 of an inch on both sides. So if you look very closely, these last strips are a little thinner than the ones in between. So, or if you want to start with 4 1/4, just overhang them by 1/8 of an inch. If you want to just eyeball it, that's okay too. Okay, so if you start off with this just on one sheet of paper, then because it's 6 inches, you can then separate them, cut them into 2-inch pieces. So now you have enough for 3 cards. And I'm going to show you what I did with a different pattern. I have yet to put these together, but when I do, I'll post those up on my blog. But I did a similar thing with the Gilded Autumn DSP, and I made these 3 cards. So look how different they are, but yet just using the same piece. Okay, the same third from what I did with my 6 by 4¼ piece. So this one went straight across on texture textile on the white. I stamped my saying first before embossing, because you want to stamp it on really flat paper before you emboss that, but do it dark and then it will show right through the embossing as well. So real simple. You have a card base, you have 1 layer, and you have your DSP up there, but look how sweet and simple yet classy that looks, especially with that gilded pattern. Okay, this one, same thing, just a little piece of white on Cajun Craze, and 2 layered ovals with my greeting on there, stamped in Cajun Craze, not Crazen, Cajun Craze. Okay, this one I think almost looks like a museum piece, the way it's framed, and looks like it's a matted piece of artwork hanging on the wall. This is one of my favorites. So early espresso, you can bring a piece of your DSP on the inside to make that a little extra special, bring in some of that pattern, and layered with the mint macaron, gold foil, little piece of white, and then the piece that we glued all the strips to, and then your sentiment as well. So 3 different designs with 1 sheet of your strips. So have fun with that, and hope to see you back again sometime soon. Take care. Bye-bye.